Hello and welcome to the Rays of Hope program brought to you by the Purchase Area Sexual Assault and Child Advocacy Center. I'm your host for today, Mary Foley, and I'm so happy that you've joined us for another edition of this program. Today we're going to be meeting people that I am so thrilled to have on our staff. We have 3 new interns with us, and the Purchase Area Sexual Assault Center has never had a formalized internship program before. And so I hope that throughout this program you will begin to catch their excitement and their passion for this work, but that you will also see the importance of your involvement and that you can make a difference in this work as well. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce our guests, Tara French, Taylor Buckingham, Serena Brittain. Welcome to the Rays of Hope program.
Thank you.
How are you all doing this morning? I know we sprung this on you, and you all graciously agreed to be a guest today. I tell you, I'm so excited to have you on here for lots and lots of reasons, mainly because I believe that you bring to the show, therefore you bring to the viewer, a fresh set of eyes about this work and about the need in our community. And I know you each have something different to bring. So I'd like to start with you, Tara. You are the graduate intern. I'd like for you just to introduce yourself and your field of study, and then we'll introduce you all as well.
Well, I'm Tara French, and I'm a graduate clinical psychology intern at PASAC, and this is my first experience as an intern, and it's just going great. And I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to do my internship here.
Absolutely, thank you. Taylor.
Well, I'm Taylor Buckingham, and this is also my first internship opportunity. I'm an undergraduate social work student working towards a social work degree in December.
Welcome. Serena.
I am a social work intern. This is my last semester in the social work program. I'll be graduating in December.
So you're very excited about that?
Yes.
So you are glad to be here and ready to be gone all at the same time. Well, I tell you, we have actually, let me give the viewer a little bit of history. I wrote a grant to the Paducah United Way Emerging Needs Committee, so special thanks to them, and they granted that proposal to formalize an internship program because they felt that the need was great for us to be able to bring in some arms and work to help alleviate what we had was a waiting list. And every department needed some support, and so they provided the computers for you all to be able to intern with us. And so we've divided this internship program, as you know, in 3 areas: clinical, education, and advocacy. And then Serena and Taylor, you all will rotate. You'll have a rotation. So I'd like for you to take just a moment to tell the viewer about those departments from your perspective. Normally the viewers that watch this show hear it from the staff's perspective, and that's why I think it's so exciting for you to be able to pare down for the viewer, what does PASAC do? Why is what we do important? And so let's start with education. Taylor, let's start with you. What does the education department at PASAC do?
Okay, well, with the education department, I'm just freshly learning all of this the past couple of weeks, but I'm working with the education director at PASAC to be trained to go into the middle schools in Paducah here and present a program, 4-day program, that educates the middle schoolers about sexual assault and sexual violence, and basically just bring awareness into the classroom to show them what they can do to be a part of, prevention for this problem, and being a part. Also, I'm being a part of helping out with programs that the education director's doing and holding within the community to build community prevention teams to help fight the problem as well. And so it's been really interesting to be able to come into a newly a new prevention program that is up and coming, and being able to have a fresh perspective on it.
Well, Taylor, and you bring up, I think, 2 excellent points that I'd like to make sure that we address together, and you other 2, please feel free to engage as well. But you say that you go into the middle schools of Paducah, and so now most people will know that the Rape Crisis and the Child Advocacy Center is both housed at the Purchase Area Sexual Assault Center. So we've been doing prevention programming or educational programming for more than 25 years on things that we felt were important for students to know. Now, I can tell the viewer right now, currently on our caseload, we have a little over 100 active clients. 65 of those are children. So the problem, now that doesn't mean how many that's just in the past, that's just right now. We've served 191 new victims of some type of sexual crime since July 1st. So in less than, right around, not 2 full months, we've served almost 200 new people, not even counting the people we currently are seeing. So the problem of sexual violence for our children is huge. They're
Right.
3 times more likely to be sexually victimized before the age of 18. And stats say that they will be victimized before age 18. So the point that you make, that you go into the middle schools, I don't want that to be glossed over. It's
Right.
huge. You also speak to this new upcoming prevention program, a community prevention team.
Right.
Now, those are terms that the community is going to be hearing from me on Rays of Hope in months to come. But could you all talk a little bit about what is that new and upcoming movement? What's it called? What's it mean? Who wants to take that? You want to take it, Serena?
Sure. We're talking about the Green Dot program. Basically, it's a statewide program that focuses on reducing violence in the community really at its roots by changing attitudes, societal attitudes, people's attitudes. Because in the past, violence prevention education hasn't really worked as well as they had hoped. So they've had better success, and research shows that there's better success going to the very root of the problem. So basically, the Green Dot program, you imagine a map of Kentucky, our state, and every act of violence, whether it's bullying, just mean gossip, or as bad as sexual violence, physical violence, all sorts of violence, can be imagined as a red dot on that map. And if you look at that, if you look at a map of Kentucky and you see that the red dots would cover everywhere, there's so much violence. The idea of the Green Dot program is to bring that a person, when they see violence going on, they can take some sort of stand, they can take some sort of action, whether that's with bullying. If you see your friend being bullied in school, you can speak up for them or support them or tell someone. If you're a college student and you see your friend is, maybe not even your friend, just someone is maybe drunk at a party and someone might be trying to take advantage of them, that you would step in and prevent that violence from happening. And all those people are what we call a green dot. And if people start taking these stands, the green dot, if you look at our map, will cover up the red, and it will prevent those red dots from occurring. So
I think if this were a test, she would have just gotten an A+. That was very, very good to take all that in a short amount of time. But that is exactly right. We bullet down green dot good, red dot bad, and it's taking that responsibility to be a bystander and to intervene, not to just stand by and watch it happen. Do something, change your attitude, put forth an action, do something to prevent the occurrence from ever happening. The Center for Disease Control has signed on with this idea. There's research being done statewide through rape crisis centers, and we are a part of a statewide movement, and Kentucky actually is taking the lead. States all over the nation are calling, looking to Kentucky. How are we implementing this? The University of Kentucky's come on board to provide researchers and evaluators, and rape crisis centers are really going to be that delivery system to begin to collect first ever data on primary prevention as it relates to sexual assault. So when you say up and coming, it really is up and coming, and it will continue to be that. And so the awesome thing about Green Dot, and I believe we have this quote for viewers to look at, it says, something to the effect of, not everyone has to do everything, but everyone has to do something, one green dot at a time. And that was the author of that program, Dr. Dorothy Edwards. And so the viewers are going to be hearing a lot more about that. So you are entering the education at an amazing
it's exciting
time. Yes. Okay, so advocacy. Serena, right now you are doing the advocacy rotation. So from your perspective, what does the advocacy department of our center do?
Well, I think the advocacy department is really focused on supporting victims of sexual assault and their families and friends in a lot of ways, from not just the therapeutic, like the clinical services handle the therapeutic side, the advocacy part would handle the legal issues, medical issues.
Absolutely.
I think
such a different service,
Yeah.
but certainly a need from my perspective. Now I want to open this up to all three of you, because Tara, we're also going to get to your specific area clinically, but before we get there, you all have had opportunity, now that you've been with us for a little while, to be exposed to the varying needs that walk through the door, and then the various ways that we meet and accommodate those needs. So specifically speaking about advocacy, what has been your biggest awe moment since being at PASAC that maybe you didn't think about before you came to work there, or you didn't see before, as you've provided, and all of you have been pulled in to provide advocacy services? Tell the viewer what that's been like. Really, is it a big need?
I think it is very much so. I didn't realize the array of disciplines that are involved in just a hate crime or a victim, sexual assault case. But it's just, you put real faces to these situations, and you can read about them in textbooks and hear about them all day long. But until you're sitting there beside, either the family member or the victim, you don't really. Sometimes you just feel so helpless, but when they turn to you and they're just like, thank you so much for being here, just a warm body beside them, just letting them know that whatever you can help or provide for them, that I think that they very much so appreciate it, and it's just very rewarding.
So it sounds like for you, part of it was just seeing the actual victim family, the reality of the crime that we read about in the headline or we see on the news, or we choose not to see or read about.
And just the different, because I'm so used to the clinical part of it and the therapy, but just to step out of that for just a minute and see what else goes on besides, the therapeutic
aspect.
Yeah.
Thank you. Taylor, what about you? What's been, in terms of advocacy and offering that support, what's it been like for you so far?
Yeah, it definitely has impacted me a lot. I feel like when I first came as an intern, I really didn't have any understanding or any background really about statistics about sexual abuse or any understanding at all, and so everything was really fresh to me. And I think working with the advocate at PASAC has really been eye-opening to see, just like Tara was saying, putting a face with the problem. I always heard about sexual abuse, but when people come in crying, wanting help, kind of desperate, it's like, oh, I can be that for them. I can be that person to make an impact on their life, and they want someone to help and to be able to go for information, for more understanding. And it's like, oh, I can be that for them. And whether that means, going to court with them, just, being there to listen to them and provide information that they really need and want to know. And I've just seen it's such a need, and people need that. And I think it's also another part is you're not just there to provide one service, but being an advocate for victims of sexual crimes. You're with them through the whole process when they first come into the center, first step that they take, through the legal battles that may happen, all the way to when they're, maybe ready to move on and ready to leave the center. But it's not just a one service. It's definitely a life on life with them.
I love the way that you said that, life on life. I think probably one of the most devastating things about sexually based crimes is it is a crime that happens at the hand of someone else. Another human being inflicts that hurt. And so then we're able to stand life on life, ready to say, but at the hands of a person, you can begin that healing process. Serena, as the official advocacy intern right now, I know that you and Taylor, because schools haven't really started yet, so she's been tag teaming, and Tara, as you've been there, we've certainly pulled on your clinical skills to provide some of those services. But I know that the two of you recently attended a trial in one of our counties, and you watched firsthand the difficult process that victims oftentimes do have to go through if they choose to take those steps. Can you talk, Serena, a little bit about what was that experience like?
I think it was really eye-opening. We always talked about victim blaming in those sorts of situations, but I never understood how intense it is. Like, I never understood how those. I knew that they would try to use the client in question. I knew they would try to use personal information against her. They would try to say things to make her look not credible. But it was really eye-opening about how I understand now why so many people don't choose to press charges, to go for prosecution, because I mean, it was just heart-wrenching to see the things they would try to say about the victim.
Well, and we often refer at the center to what we call the roller coaster. I mean, you're up with them, and then you're down, and it's up and down, up and down. But what we always keep our mind on is they may not have their justice in that courtroom for a variety of reasons, but they had the opportunity to use their voice. They had the opportunity to be believed by those who choose to believe. And they had their opportunity to face their perpetrator, and if for no other reason say, I know what you did, and you know what you did, and you don't have any power over me anymore. Sometimes it doesn't go the way we want it to go. In this particular case, it did. What was it like when you all heard the news that the perpetrator was found guilty and was given multiple years in prison? What did that do for that roller coaster ride for you all?
Well, I think for me, I really felt like justice was served. And not all the time. Justice is not always served in trials and different cases. But seeing the victim at the courtroom yesterday, and just how much distress she was in, how much she was in fear, and I think I felt that with her. I felt that emotion with her when I found out, the sentencing that the perpetrator received. It's like, okay, this was worth it. It was worth it for her to press charges. It was worth it, even though it was hard for her to go through the process, because justice was served, and I think that it was a great feeling.
And I was so glad for the outcome, but I'm glad that you all got to experience it. So I hear you saying that advocacy takes many forms. It takes the support role, it takes the information sharing, it takes the sometimes pleading for the rights of others, holding other people accountable to the rights of victims. It really is an opportunity to be their voice when they don't have one. So similarly is that process for the clinical department. Talk to the viewer about what is important about clinical services for victims. Why shouldn't we send victims to just any mental health provider? Why should we send them to PASAC?
I think PASAC is very specialized within this area and what goes on. And I've learned so much just already being here in the clinical team. But what it really does is it provides therapy and counseling to the primary victim, to their family. And you sort of start to see how it affects so many different areas in their life. And you sort of, what the goal is you want to try to give that back to them, give them control back, and even psychoeducate them a little bit of what's happened, and unfortunately normalize that to a situation that, you're not the only person that's been through this. And here are some ways how you can get better and start to move on and have a fresh start. And it's difficult in a way because you can't promise them that it's going to be okay, or things are going to get better, but you can definitely provide that ray of hope for them.
That's right. And I think it's important to note too that the research does indicate, and our experience does demonstrate, that with proper intervention, they do get better. It's not going to be an easy road,
right? But
they do get better. And it's not that we're just wishing that along, which we do, and it's not that we're just cheerleading along, which we do. It's that we're using evidence-based treatment to say, this is trauma, this is common, this is how we deal with it, and here's what we can do to help. And I have sat in those rooms when advocates and clinicians are explaining to a family, you know what, you're not alone, but it's really going to be important that you come to a place that's specialized to deal with this. And almost that look of relief, like, okay, we're here, here's what it is, but we can get through this together.
It's the first step.
I'd like to take just a moment to take just a little bit of a shift, and we may come back to some of your, what I'd like to hear toward the end is that one experience or that one moment where you realized yeah, this is where I want to be, this is what I want to do. Something that just really tugged at your heart. But before we get there, you know, there are lots of viewers watching today. Probably the majority are not necessarily students looking for an internship. Some of them are. But rather people in the community that maybe are hearing about the Purchase Area Sexual Assault and Child Advocacy Center for the first time. Maybe they're a regular viewer, they know what we do. I'd like for you to speak beyond the center and talk about why is it important for people to be involved in human services in some way where they give of themselves to somebody else. From your perspective, why is that important? Why should people volunteer? Why should they help nonprofits? Well, why should they care about victimization? And there's no order. You can go whatever order you want.
I just feel like that one day you might look over beside you and see someone that you know in a situation, and not necessarily, there's nothing that can prepare you for that moment, but just to know that you would hope someone would be there for you and for your friend or family member. And just to learn as much as you can about education. One thing, Serena put a green dot on my hand the other day, and she's like, okay, you're a green dot now. And I had so many people after I left the center like, oh, what's the green dot for? And it's just to be aware of it and understand it is just a great opportunity to provide information and educate other people around you, even if you don't know someone in this situation. But, you know, like I said, it's a possibility one day that you, unfortunately, you might. So.
She would also get an A+. That was very good. And very good to you. Get bonus points for putting the green dot on her hand, telling her to go forth and green dot, which she obviously did. So, and I think you really underscore an important thing. I don't think that most humans, it's not that they don't care, and it's not that they don't want to help if they're asked. What I do think, though, is our world is safer if we really don't have to acknowledge that that's a possibility. Because if it's a possibility, and it's as big of a possibility as I'm saying, then my child is in danger. My wife is in danger, my niece, my nephew, my son. And if that's the case, then I'm going to have to do something. And so sometimes it's easy to just turn the channel, turn it down, turn it off. But what I often have the privilege to say is victims don't have the option to turn it off.
Right.
They have to live it. And because they have to live it and they share this community with you, you have to acknowledge and you have to make a commitment. And so you say something very important, Taylor. You know, the statistics point, we cannot argue with the science. It says 1 out of 4 women, 1 out of 7 men will be victims. And the scary thing is, that's the ones we know about. The chances of it landing in your family are greater than the chances of it not. And so we have an opportunity to be proactive. Thank you, well said. What about you, Taylor? For those watching, why should they make this their issue?
I think they should make it their issue because, you know, victims don't ask for it to be made their issue. You know, it just kind of happens. And so we're all human, you know, being part of human services, we're all human. We're all part of this, you know, bigger world picture. And I think it's just bigger than ourselves. It's bigger, you know, it's not, you said it perfectly, we don't choose. The victims don't choose, so why should we have to choose whether we want to help or not? And I think it really has been that's been brought more since I've been interning at the center, the need and how much the statistics show that there needs to be help and how there just isn't. And so it's like, okay, I want to take personal responsibility and I want to be someone who's going to stand up. And so I think if enough people do that, then it will make an impact, you know, and I think that's why people should help.
You get an A too. You don't want to have given an A today, so very good. Serena, I know these two have said great answers, but I know that you also have something that's unique to you. Why should people be involved? Why should they help? You were actually a volunteer for the center before you interned, so you've obviously taken that personal responsibility. What would you say to those watching?
I would say that at first, as a volunteer, I know that when you first make that decision and you say, I'm going to give something back to my community, it's scary. And especially in the situation, volunteering at the center, you have, you know, operating the crisis line, going to hospitals to just to be with the victim and give information, that's a little frightening at first.
Absolutely.
But it's so rewarding. Like the first time I answered that crisis line, I was terrified. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to step outside of our comfort zone and to interact with other people, but it's just so rewarding. It's great. And also, I would say, even if it doesn't affect you right now, I mean, we know that where community participation is happening, those communities are better places to live. They're, you know, and we all have an investment in our community, making it a safer place, making it a good place to live for ourselves and for our children and grandchildren, and that's what I would say.
And now I know why we have you three. You're very, very well-spoken, smart young ladies. So I think that it's refreshing to see people your age interested in making a difference. And I do think it sets a high bar for those watching that we all need to be a part. And so I cannot thank you enough for that. One of my favorite quotes, as you all know, you've heard me say, is from a book called Trauma and Recovery with Dr. Judith Herman. And I can't quote it exactly, but basically the idea is that when we witness things like Hurricane Katrina or Hurricane Ike or an earthquake, something of devastation that is by a natural cause, we sympathize and empathize readily with those affected. I mean, we seem to rush to their aid. But when we witness something from human cause, we are immediately at that moment caught in a battle. We're forced to take a side. We don't have to take a side with nature, but when it's a human doing it to another human, we are forced at that moment to take a side because it is morally impossible to remain neutral. We've got a perpetrator, we've got a victim. And so then I think it goes on to say something along these lines. The perpetrator asks that we do something very simple. And what would you all say that is, that he or she is asking that we do?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. We don't do anything. And that is comfortable for most of us because we don't have to see or hear or speak evil. It's not my business, it's not my concern, it's not my family, it's not my issue, it's private, it's personal, I don't want to overstep my bounds, all those things we tell ourselves. But when we tell ourselves those things, we are doing nothing, and that's all the perpetrator asks. But the victim, on the other hand, demands that we act, that we engage, that we remember, that we get involved. And so I'd like to close the program today with that thought, that viewers today, you have the option to do something or to do nothing. And we would like to encourage you, I along with these ladies would like to encourage you to step up and do something, to be a green dot, to be involved at our center, to educate yourself, to talk about the issue, but to make a difference because you really do have to make a choice. You cannot remain neutral. And so I would like to offer you the opportunity to be a green dot. There will be some tips on the screen on how you can do that. You can contact the center at 1-800-928-7273 if you'd like to volunteer. You can take those tips on Green Dot, apply them to your situation, and until we see one another again, we encourage you to be the difference in your community.